Many young athletes struggle with discipline, consistency, and accountability. But what many young athletes don't know is that something as simple as setting goals is scientifically proven to increase your consistency and your performance. I am thrilled to be working with the company Sports Hogs. It is a family-run company that specializes in making journals where you can track your process goals. Each journal, here's mine for basketball, gives you an opportunity to list your goals, how you want to implement them, and then gives you opportunities to not only reflect on goals in your workouts, but also reflect on each game performance over the course of the season. My favorite part of these Sports Hogs journals is the space where you as an athlete can list positive affirmations to keep yourself motivated. And if you need a little extra positivity, there are great quotes from legendary athletes filled in the journal. This family did an outstanding job creating resources for young athletes all over the country. And if you want to take advantage of this resource, visit sportshogs.com. That's sportshogs.com. Get a hand on your journal today. Greetings, Information Superhighway. Welcome to the 15th episode of the Nail the Recruiting Process podcast. We have a great interview with a great guest coming your way. It does go a little bit long, so we're going to handle this intro a little bit differently than normal. I want to start by saying the Mets are in the NLCS. They did get crushed by the Dodgers in Game 1, but they're fighting really hard in Game 2 after a great opening start as I'm recording this, so I feel really good about things. I wish I had more time to talk about the incredible series victory against the Phillies with that Lindor home run, but it's okay. Just know we're happy. What I instead want to talk about for the intro is the New York Liberty. So the Liberty lose Game 1 in a really hard-fought game at the WNBA Finals against the Lynx. Game 2, the Liberty win. They get a 20-point performance out of Bonijah Laney. And this matters to me because I just had two incredible skill development trainers on the podcast, Tony Watson and Rod Middleton. They were my episode last week. And one of the things they talked about was how important it was for them to start seeing more trainers work on the 80% than the 20%. Specifically what they mean by that, the moves that get key players their buckets 80% of the time, versus the things that occupy training sessions to keep players entertained, but they don't do nearly as much in game. With that, I decided to do a little project here. If you are watching this podcast, you are going to see a running video of Bonijah Laney's 20-point game. She goes 8 for 14 from the floor. That's 57%. Super efficient game. She doesn't get to the line once. So she scores 20 points on 8 shots. So here is what you can learn from Bonijah Laney's 20-point game in Game 2 of the WNBA Finals. Let's watch her makes. First one, we get a little dive. She holds space in the corner, catch and shoot 3. Second one, transition into a pistol. She uses the screen, defense plays drop coverage. Cool, pull-up jump shot. Third one, space, finds open window on a middle drive, catch and shoot 3. Next one, screen is coming. She refuses the screen. There's no help. Easy left-hand layup. Next one, turns down the shot, gets a drag screen on the wing. Defense goes under. She shoots. Next one, another corner kick out off a middle look. Next one, uses the screen. This is the only make where she has to go even remotely deep into her bag. Counter move, turnaround, fadeaway jump shot from in the paint. And finally, a twister screen. Starts flat, screens back to the middle, left-hand finish. What do we learn from that? We learn how simple it is. Catch and shoot threes, spacing correctly, making the right decisions on ball screen reads, and only one make where she had to go deep into her bag of tricks to score. Recruits, everything you just saw was simple. No goofy foot finishes, no crazy inside hand stuff, no 11 dribble combo moves. In fact, she only dribbled 11 times on the offensive side of half court in that entire sequence of clips. Instead, what you saw was someone who understands the basics, made the correct reads, and did the correct, basic, and fundamental thing every time to score. You don't have to be fancy to be effective, and that's a 20-point game in the WNBA Finals. Practice the basics, master the basics, be consistent. On the subject of mastering the basics and practicing, I'm I'm really excited about our guest today. His name is Cornell Thomas. He's a motivational speaker and AAU coach with Crossroads in New Jersey. Cornell's story is the reason why he's here. Remember, this is part 3 of our 3-part How to Do It series. We started 3 weeks ago with Chase Skinkiss, who talked all about strength and conditioning. Then we had Tony Watson and Rod Middleton, who, as I reminded you a few minutes ago, we had talking about skill development. Cornell is here to talk about the hard work component. My podcast and the work I do with recruits is not designed really to focus on the top or the bottom. It's designed to focus on the middle, right? Because if you're in 8th grade and you're already getting multiple Power 5 scholarship offers, you don't need my help. I might help you with like fit strategies, but that's about it. My job is to help people in the middle get recruited and then try to motivate people in the bottom, but it works when it works. I often tell the people in the middle to ignore the stories from the top because that's such an exceptional journey to be offered so many scholarships that young that you don't really learn, aside from talent and hard work, what they're doing in their process. You have to run your own race. But what if you're on the very bottom and deeply passionate, but just kind of uninformed and starting late? What would my message be to you then? Well, that's where Cornell comes in. Cornell Thomas started playing basketball at age 16. You heard me correctly. He started playing basketball at age 16. Through a series of mentors who bought into how hard he was working, he learned basketball very, very late. He did not contribute to his varsity high school basketball team, but he also did not stop playing basketball. And he ultimately played in junior college. And he got so good so quickly because of his work ethic that he ended up getting an NAIA scholarship to go play NAIA basketball at Minot State in South Dakota. They're now a D2 school in the NCAA. He keeps working that hard, and he works his way into a professional basketball contract overseas. I want him to share his story about how he experienced basketball at that age and what his work ethic was like. You're going to learn a lot of very, very specific things from him. How he got his work ethic, what sort of advice he got from his mom. It really matters, so you're going to want to stay tuned for it. And then most importantly, how he now approaches having a work ethic conversation with young people because now he coaches them. There are so many incredible things you can pick up about work ethic from listening to this conversation. But the most important thing that I want you to pick up, I want you to have this in your mind before you even hear a word from him. It's never too late to get good at something. Never, never, never. So if you want to talk about your how and what you can really be doing to jumpstart your process, I need you to remember something very important. You can always be doing more. And when coaches are trying to motivate people to do more, one of the things we often say is, if you don't do it, there is somebody else who will. Well, today, I would like to introduce you to somebody else who did all of it. This is going to flow a little bit differently from our other podcasts because I brought him here to tell his whole story, and you're going to hear the whole thing. Enjoy it, learn from it. You're going to get a lot out of it. My chat with Cornell, mother-loving Thomas, starts right now. Who would have thought that almost 10 years ago, I run into you at Spooky Nook, and I'm like, you're the hopscotch guy. No one, by the way, is going to have even the slightest idea what that means. That's totally fine. But look to see what a silly short film about hopscotch has brought us. We've both advanced pretty far professionally since those days, and I'll tell you what, Cornell, I'm super happy to have you here. Thanks for making time for me.
Man, I'm honored, brother. That was a great encounter. That was the first time a coach ever really threw me off guard at any type of event. So that was a great lead-in.
Well, it's funny. I've had a few coaches come on the podcast and like outright tell me like, hey, this thing I did in my 20s that like kind of helped me. I shouldn't have done it, and you shouldn't do it either. And something I now know about myself is like, when you're out recruiting, it might not be best to like accost a complete stranger and exclusively say like the most random things you can think of to the stranger.
That's what makes you you. That's what makes you you. And that's what, like, when you come across people like me that appreciate that and like love people that are different, because no offense to any coaches, but sometimes you meet the same coach like 7,000 times
The
And you're
very
just like,
standard procedure. Sure.
give me something different. Like I don't want the business like, hello, I love the what you do with your team, blah blah blah. Like give me something
Yeah.
different. So that was great.
Well, yeah. Well, you don't get any different than I had no idea you were an
Yeah.
AAU coach, but I really, yeah, like here's our connection.
Yeah.
This is really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is it's one thing to talk about hopscotch and a short film called Scotch on the Rocks parts 1
Yeah.
and 2.
Shout
And
out to
maybe one
Chris.
day, yeah, maybe one day you and I will get Chris D'Alessio
Yeah.
on a podcast. But
It'd be
until then,
awesome.
yeah, until then, we are here to talk about basketball. We're here to talk
Mhm.
about a lot of positive psychology that I think you
Yeah.
can help with, and most importantly, we're gonna use a big R word over and over again, and that R word is resilience. And
Yeah.
there's I want to kind of start here because it kind of goes arm in arm with a piece of content I shared recently. So you know this from your own personal experience and evaluating kids, but something I shared publicly that was met with a little bit of like trepidation and maybe like a pessimistic response was that like once a coach knows you're good and they're still recruiting you, like once they know you're good enough, they kind of want to see you fail just to see what your behavior looks like when it's going wrong.
Mhm.
So
100%.
you are the perfect candidate to start talking about this because to say things went wrong when you were young with the game of basketball doesn't really tell the whole story because in a lot of instances things weren't going any way at all. So I want to start there with you. You have a very unique relationship with the game of basketball that has taken you so far. Talk to us about how it started and how it became the thing you were most passionate about and ready to be resilient for.
I think the funniest thing, Jared, is that when I go to different schools and talk or camps, etc., they always think that my basketball journey started at like 3, 4 years old,
Right.
right? Because that's what you typically hear. You know, I was 3 or 4 years old. My dad put the basketball in the crib. I've been doing AAU, none of that stuff. Like I've never ever played an AAU game in my life, ever.
Crazy.
Never.
Crazy.
So I started playing basketball when I was 16 years old. I'm originally from Passaic, New Jersey. My father was a police officer in the city of Passaic, New Jersey, and he passed away when I was 4. So
Mm.
when he passed away, he left my mom the job of raising 5 kids on her own. So my mindset in terms of positivity and resilience and grit, it all stems from my mom because
Okay.
I just watched her work. Like I watched her. My mom wasn't a big sit you down, preach to you. My mom would really talk in kind of sound bites and bullet points like, hey, don't follow the flock. Everything happens for a reason. These are the things that that stuck with me when I was growing up. But because we were, really below the poverty line and we didn't have a lot of money, she didn't have the bandwidth to take us to sports. So I didn't play any sports really growing up. When we moved from Passaic to Rockaway, I remember the first sport I ever played was baseball. I was on
Okay.
this team, like little league baseball, and it's because my uncle played baseball, and he always wanted me to play baseball. And
May I add, not a
yeah,
bad sport to play when you're living in Rockaway.
not a bad sport when
That
you're
is a
living in Rockaway.
that is like
Yeah,
the sport. So
that's the sport. And like
yeah,
a lot of people that don't know Passaic's an inner city. When we moved to Rockaway, my mom moved us out of there for an opportunity, right? So she
sure.
moves out of there because, but at the time, Passaic was getting really bad. The educational system, the schools were really bad, and so she was like, all right, we have to get them out. So she did. I don't know. I still to this day, Jared, don't know how. She somehow got 5 kids out of Passaic into Rockaway, and I played baseball. I thought, oh, okay, I'll try this baseball thing. Liked baseball. I've always had a really strong work ethic. Again, because when you watch your mom, go to work at 11 o'clock at night, come back, get you ready for school, then go to work again to the second job and to the third job. If you're paying attention, right, through osmosis, something is going to hit you. Like something, and
Sure.
I'm the youngest of all the boys. I'm the youngest. My sister's younger than me, but I'm the youngest, right, boy. So I just paid attention and really studied my mom and thought to myself, well, anything I want to be successful at, I have to work at. So I remember, we had an empty lot across the street from our house in Rockaway, and I used to throw rocks in front of my face and hit them with the bat across the street for hours, like hours, until like my hands had blisters on them. And it's not because I was like, hey, I'm in love with baseball. It's just I wanted to get better at it.
Right.
So
the practice
I
component.
did that. And then going, 7th grade, 8th grade, ninth grade, I played freshman football to give it a shot. I had no idea what the hell was going on. I was getting hit from different angles. I didn't know, like, I was like Chris Tucker in Rush Hour. I was like, which one of y'all hit me? I had no idea about schemes, anything. I just went out there and just ran around. And then it wasn't until the summer of my sophomore year. My mom is from this town called Bird's Nest, Virginia, which is like, this big, right? And everybody's related to me in Bird's Nest, Virginia. Like all my cousins, everybody's related to me. And I remember,
That's a award-winning name for a town.
yeah. And
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
and,
I
and
don't mean
people
to
don't
interrupt,
believe
but
it.
like if you're
Yeah.
starting a movie and there's a sign that
Bird's Nest.
says like Bird's Nest,
Yeah.
Virginia, population, the Thomas family,
So,
I'm all about it.
population 15, right?
Okay.
And it's all of us, right? So,
Yeah.
but back then, like when you go to Bird's Nest, you're related to everybody, and you're 16 years old. You're like, there's no girls in town, right? Like
Right.
everybody's my cousin. So I'm like, this is the worst possible landing spot that I could be in right now in the summer. But I remember I have a cousin, his name's Carlos Taylor, and he was a stud 3-sport athlete. Like he played basketball, football, and track. And he was in the paper for all 3 of them. And
Okay.
for whatever reason, one day I was sitting on his bed and I looked under his bed and he had all these newspaper articles about him, playing basketball. And I started to read these articles and it's like, Carlos Taylor scores 37 points. Carlos Taylor, and I'm watching and I'm like, he's the dude. Like he's the guy.
He's the
And
face of it. Sure.
yeah. So I'm like, but for me growing up, I have so many older brothers. No one knew me for anything. I was so-and-so's little brother. That's like, that's so-and-so's little brother. Like no one ever said, oh, that's Cornell. He does this, right? So
A very typical younger sibling experience in a
Yeah.
small town, right?
Yeah. And also for me, I'm just thinking to myself, well, my cousin plays basketball. He's really good at it. Maybe I'll start trying to play basketball. And maybe I can be known for something other than just being someone's little brother. Now, the problem is I've never played the game before, ever. Like when I was a freshman, I was 5'6", right? From freshman to sophomore year, I grew 6 inches, right? So I came back. Back time, I rocked a high top, right? So I was another 3 or 4 inches. So I was like around damn near 6'2", when the time I came back for my junior year. And so when I got home, when we drove home to Rockaway, I found the nearest court. It was like 3.5 miles away because there's no courts or sidewalks in Rockaway. It's not like Passaic, right? Where I can just go down the street and find a court. And I remember my first day shooting a basketball, or I'll put this in quotes, shooting a basketball. Was just pretty much throwing a basketball at a basket and just watching it go over.
Hucking the ball in the general direction of the basket. Right.
Hoping, praying to God that the ball went in at some point. And I'm sitting there and I did this for about 2 hours and I just realized like, oh, I suck at this. Like I'm horrible at this. Like I'm god awful. And and you find this and I've seen it in your podcast, there's these chance encounters that you have with people that for me are not coincidences. People come into your life for a reason, right? And as I'm sitting here throwing the basketball up, there's this guy about 5'7", 5'8", like Filipino guy that comes walking to the court and he goes, my name is Ray. Do you want me to show you how to shoot a basketball? So I guess like he lived across the street. So I guess he was watching this kid by himself just throw the ball everywhere but in the hoop. And he decided for some reason on this day to come out and ask if he could show me how to shoot. And I've always been open to instruction. And that's one thing I always tell kids. Like I've always been open to it. Even if it's crazy advice, I'll give you a platform to tell me the crazy advice. And when I do with it, I do with it. But I'll never cut somebody off. I'm open to learning. And for the next 2 hours, this dude showed me how to shoot a basketball, like correctly, right? Now, he left. I still sucked at basketball, right? By no means was I good. There's still like, dribbling and passing and playing defense and knowing where to be, like IQ. I had none of that.
But your game of horse has moved up a little bit.
Yeah, I from 3 feet in.
Yeah.
Like my game of horse from right under the basket,
Boom.
I'm smoking 13% of the population. Like I'm going to be pretty good.
Let's go.
So I'm working on this and I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, I'll just come here every single day for 6-7 hours a day and I'll work on what I just learned. And I always repeat that to the kids that I work with, like now, and the kids that I coach at Blair and college. I say, I go there for 6-7 hours a day. So I'd have to walk 3.5 miles and I'd go there from morning to afternoon. And all I would do is work on what Rainier showed me what to do. and then I'd walk 3.5 miles back. So I have a 7 miles is in that equation. And I did that every day for the whole entire summer. And it's what people don't realize is when you're working at something, right? Especially about like in terms of being great at something, it's a lot of solitude. You're gonna be by yourself. And the reason people stop working is because they can't take that solitude. They can't take that solitary confinement. The trenches to me is being by myself in training and no one waking me up and saying, oh, it's time to go and train, or I have a plan for you to work out today. It's just trying to figure it out, right? So I did that for the whole entire summer. I was at Morris Hills High School in Rockaway, and I went to tryouts because I was like, okay, there's a tryout. I'm a junior now in high school. First tryout I've ever been to. I'm stinking up the joint. Like when I say that I have, like they're doing 3-man weave. I've never seen what 3-man weave before.
What's
in
a
my
3-man
life.
weave?
Yeah.
I can't imagine, because I still remember, like this, hand to God, Cornell. I remember being 10 and being at a St. Peter's CYO travel practice, and I was told I was good enough to make the B teams.
Yeah.
And the first time they were like, we're running 3-man weave, I remember being like, what?
Yeah.
So I can't imagine, like, if I'm 10 looking at that and being like, get in the back of the line and do not go until you think you're not going to mess us up, what it must feel like as a junior in high school.
Yeah. And these kids have already had 3 years of running this, right? Or 4 years of running this. So you're talking about back of the line. I'm like almost in the hallway watching because I'm like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go. And so like the tryouts are over. And when tryouts are over, during that time, they will put a list on the wall for your varsity teams. And I'm a junior, and all my kids, most of the kids at my age, they're on, varsity or whatever. And I look over and my I get cut from varsity, right? So understandably. And then I look at the JV list and I'm on JV. So I don't know any better. So I'm like, I'm a junior on JV. That makes sense. Like junior varsity. I guess that's where the juniors play, right? Like I had no idea. Like, no, dude. Like there's sophomores that play varsity, fam. Like you're not it's not just specifically for juniors. It's like you have a freshman on your team, right? So
sometimes though it pays to take the world incredibly literally. Yeah. Junior varsity.
Junior varsity. That makes
varsity
sense.
for juniors.
Yeah,
Done.
let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go crazy here. And the craziest thing is like when we started playing, like I wasn't playing at all. Like I wasn't starting. I was coming off the bench and coming off the bench sparingly, coming off the bench. And like my boys that are on the team, they were mostly all of them were starting. And I remember going home one day. It was after the third or fourth game, and I remember going up to my mom, and she goes, "Well, how's basketball going?" Because my mom can't watch my games. Like she's working all the time.
Right.
And I said, Mom, I'm not really playing. And she goes, okay, work harder. That's it. No, like the coach sucks. Like your teammates aren't good. Why isn't my baby playing? None of that. Just, work harder. Like just 2 words, work harder. And I'm like, okay, I got to work harder. And I always say, like, back in those days, I feel that everything was on you. It wasn't on the coach. It wasn't on your teammates. It was, what are you doing? Right. And that self-reflectiveness of like looking in the mirror and saying, oh, this person that loves me more than anybody on earth isn't coddling me. She's just basically throwing it at me like, oh, well, if you work harder, maybe you'll have an opportunity to play more. And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to just work harder. I got it. Say less, Mom. I got you. And I just worked harder, and I get in the games here and there. There was a guy that played in the NBA. They called him, his name was James Bailey. His nickname was Jumpin' James Bailey. Played on the Nets. And he was an assistant coach at one of the schools that we played, JV coach. And he's a big man, like 6'9", 6'10", right? And I think he played in the league for like 7, 8 years. And I had no idea, who he was. And we played a game against his team, our JV team. And I got in at the end, and I had like 6 points. Like I had like 2 hooks and like a pump fake and went like it's not like because I played the post back then.
Paint game.
Yeah. And so at the end of the game, I'm shaking hands with him, and he shakes my hand and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "You stay with it." And I'm looking, I'm like, yes, okay, thanks, coach. And then he goes, I found out later on in the banquet that like later on that year, he came up to my coach and said, "Who's that kid?" And he goes, "Oh, he just started playing basketball." And he basically said to my coach, like, make sure you stay with him, like keep working with him. And I didn't find that out till like the end of the school year.
Wow.
And I was just like, and again, like, there's these people that come across that give you like that little nod of encouragement, like, hey, you might not be great right now, or, but I can see something in you that if you work at it, you can get a little bit better. And that's just, I always say that's planting a seed. And as a coach, this, you plant seeds all the time to these kids,
Right.
positive seeds. Like, hey, man, like where you are right now doesn't have to be where you stay.
Right.
And so by the time I got to my senior year, that group that was a year ahead of me, it was a really good season at my high school. And when we came back, everybody left except for one kid.
So a huge varsity call up, you're saying?
Huge varsity call. I mean,
Okay.
I'm talking about mass exodus. There's one guy that played. And, we started, and obviously, I'm obviously playing varsity because I'm a senior. There's nothing else they can do with you, right? So I'm a senior.
Right.
And I'm, again, I'm not starting. And I'm like, okay. In the first game, I get in for like a minute. So I'm like, oh, well, that's better than last year because I didn't get in at all. And then that whole entire year, I probably averaged about 3 minutes, 4 minutes a game, right? Barely played. And my coach sat us down. I'll never forget this because it's something I carried with me for a little while as motivation. He sat us down at the end of the season and he was going through everybody and he was saying, oh, Kevin, you are our best shooter, and Ant, you're going to be great next year, and blah, blah. And he got to me and he said, Cornell, you're going to be a good businessman. Like nothing basketball related.
Word?
Like basically, like I was like, oh, business?
Yeah, I can imagine being a kid in the moment and being like,
I was
gee,
like,
thanks.
Thanks. I was like, oh, when did we have a talk about me loving business? Like that's my first thing that hit my head. Like, when did we sit down and I talk to you about macroeconomics, right? Like I'm struggling in school. Like it's a business is not. I'm trying to get out of here, right? So I took that and I was like, wow, okay. But the thing that I never stopped doing, Jared, I never stopped working. And that's why I always tell people, like, despite not playing, despite all the stuff that I might think was garbage, I never stopped working. And at the end of my high school, obviously no one's recruiting me, right? Like I'm averaging 0.001 points per game, right? I'm not like Mike Krzyzewski's not like, yo, who's that kid that never plays, right? So I sit down and my mom said, hey, baby boy, she goes, I don't have any money to send you to college. And I've never heard the woman say can't. Just flat out, like, I'm sorry, but I cannot send you to college. And so I sat there and I sat with that for a little bit and I said, okay, I'm going to work 2 jobs. I'm going to take a year off, year and a half off if I have to, and then I'll go to a junior college. I'll pay for a junior college. And I remember working at a pharmacy, working at Foot Action, back when Foot Action was popping. I was working at two places, and I went to a school we couldn't afford. I went to Centenary University just basically to just have like a shadow course of what college would be. And the lady that was the admissions woman, who was amazing, she goes, he can go to some of these classes, but like I know that you guys can't afford. She basically let me go there for a year for free, right?
That's awesome.
And so, and RT, she was an amazing lady. But the cool thing was at Centenary was I worked in the gym. So they had a gym called Reeves Gym, and they had a couple Division I transfers at this Division III school. So these guys were the best guys I've ever seen at that time. And they used to talk crazy to me every day. Like, I mean, dunk on me and talk bananas to me. But they love me, right? And but it really got me better seeing like the skill level. Like,
and it gave you a sense of looking at what that compete looked like too.
Like, oh, okay, this is what it looked. I mean, these guys, this is the first time I saw an up fake. Like I was jumping in the air when guys would up fake me. Like I'd be like, whoa, like I had no idea. I was like, this is crazy. Like, I'm going to high school in Rockaway. Guys aren't in and out through the leg, sham got it. No, nobody's doing that. Like these guys like bing, 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 pull back dribble, right? Like no one's got any swag to them. And so I'm playing with these guys and I have a year of training with these guys and getting murked by these guys every day. And they used to call me Mr. Reeves because I was in the gym every day. I was in the gym all day, every day. And so after that first year, my buddy went to a school called Sussex County College, where I would later coach. And he goes, hey, man, I'm going to Sussex. You should come with me. I said, what's Sussex? He was a JUCO. I said, oh, okay. So I go to Sussex. I meet my coach, Coach Kuntz. And if you don't know what junior college is, 2-year school. And where I was a Division III junior college. And
so no scholarships, no money.
No scholarships, no nothing.
Yep.
Right? But To go there for a year at that time was like $900, and I
Mm.
was working. So I'm like, I can pay my own way through junior college. And the way junior college works is basketball is one of the few sports that runs through 2 semesters. So at
Yes.
Christmas break, everybody fails off. Our first team in the first semester, we looked like the 96 Bulls. I'm like, oh, we got this cat and this cat. I didn't start a game the first semester, but then everybody failed off. We lost like 4 guys, 3 starters. So guess who got his first starting nod ever? Like the first time I started in a game, I was 20, right? So like I'm coming in like they call the starting nod. I didn't even know what to do. I'm like, do I run out? Do I slap this guy's hand? Like what? But it was the first time I started a game. And I
Mm.
was like, take the most of this opportunity. Now I'm starting. So like these little incremental steps where it's like, okay, I went from never starting a game in high school. Now I started a junior college game. And then the summer of that year, I played in this league in Washington, New Jersey that had, D1 kids, D2 kids, D3 kids, and it really jumped my game up. And sophomore year, another chance encounter, there was a guy by the name of Walt Hobbs, and he's from Newark. He played at MCI, Maine Central Institute, for this legendary coach back in the day called Max Good, right? I mean, I didn't even know what a prep school was. He came from a prep school, and he was like, he didn't start, but he was known in Newark, New Jersey for his ball handling. And he
Okay.
came up to me and he goes, yo, if you want to play college basketball, you're not a forward, bro. He's like, there's guards out there that are like, because I'm 6'5". He's like, there's guards out there that are like 6'8". And so he's the first one that showed me how to really handle the bat. Like if you look at my first semester sophomore tape and my second semester sophomore tape, it doesn't look like the same person. Like it doesn't even look like the same player. Like
I want to ask
yeah,
you a question because this is
yeah,
really important for our listeners to hear.
yeah,
Obviously, this means you put in work.
yeah,
When you knew it was time to increase your ball handling to potentially become a scholarship athlete after
yeah,
JUCO, what did your work look like every day
yeah,
to get better at ball handling? Because
yeah.
I'm talking to kids about this right now, and they truly believe it's like, oh, I didn't break a sweat, but I put in 25 minutes. Bam,
No.
get me out of here.
So I'll give you one workout really quick, and then I'll tell you what my routine was. So, Iverson was really like taking off at this time.
Right, because we're early
And
2000s right now.
well, yeah. So no, we're
Late 90s, early
19.
2000s.
So Iverson was drafted in the '96 draft,
Yeah,
and he was like a rookie right now. And everybody's doing the Iverson cross or the DC cross
gotcha.
as they call it, the Hezi cross. And Walt had a phenomenal hesitation cross. So I wanted to have a Hezi cross. So we went to this park at 11 o'clock at night, and I had a ball, and I started from one end of the baseline, and I would take a dribble and try the hesitation cross. And whenever I didn't, Walt would be like, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it. We were there, Jared, from 11 p.m. to 1:30 a.m. with me just doing one move, no other moves, but a hesitation cross for over 2.5 hours. And at the end of it, basically I can't feel my arms, my hands are all dirty from the court, right? And the next day when I woke up, there's a court the guys would play in the morning, and only move I would allow myself to do was a hesitation cross until I got it. So when I worked out, we were in the era of wrist weights and heavy balls. So I would put wrist weights or something, we couldn't afford them. So sometimes I have ankle weights on my arms, and I would start from one baseline, and I would mini cross, mini cross, mini cross, all the way to the other side, mini cross, all the way to the other side, duck walk through the legs all the way to the other side, do it forwards, backwards, sideways, V dribbles all the way through, right? And I do all that workout, and then I take them off, and I do the same workout without them. So I didn't lose my handle, I didn't lose my feel, right? And so it got to the point where my ball handling was getting so much quicker, but I didn't know when to use the moves. So the next part of our progression was Walt had all these like Chauncey Billups in Colorado, Jacques Vaughn, Brevin Knight, Steph Marbury in high school. He had all these clips of these point guards, and we'd watch game tape over and over. How does Steph push cross? Oh, this is the way he sets up his push cross. Oh, Chauncey goes behind the back into a curl. Okay, we're gonna do behind the back. And so we'd watch these moves and we write these moves out. And we say, okay, this today, we're going to focus on these 4 moves and combine these 4 moves together. We're going to combine in and out cross, in and out through the legs, in and out behind the back. And we're going to do those moves. That's it. And we do those in the finishes. We do those in the
Mm-hmm.
pull-ups. And we do them every single day. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's no, and I try to tell the kids this, there is no rest day when you're start basketball at 16 and you really want to be good. I've already had 16 years of rest days.
Right.
I don't have any rest days in me. Like, I haven't played.
Luckily, you had a lot in the bank. Right.
Yeah, I didn't have 400 AAU games under my belt by the time I was
Right.
13, right? So I'm doing all my stuff, and it's like, but then we have regular practice. Like, this is just our workout before practice. So practice is mandatory. Mandatory isn't work to me. That's not extra work. Practice is practice. That's mandatory. So if you tell me, oh, I went to practice 6 days a week, cool. What did you do on your own?
Right. That's not extra.
That's not extra.
Practice is the standard.
That's
Practice
the
is the
standard.
standard.
That's the price of admission. Practice ain't nothing. To me, for me, I'm like, practice is nothing. And so I worked my way my sophomore year, first team all region, first team all conference, all these freaking accolades, right? I had guys, Jared, that went to school with me, that went to school like out in Pennsylvania, and they would like one of my boys told me, he goes, yo, he goes, I went to the Essex game. I said, yeah, I saw you at the Essex game at the end of the game. He goes, I want to be honest with you. I went to the Essex game because guys were saying your name was in the paper, and I couldn't believe it was you, because I remember you from Centenary. He goes, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't think that was you. And he goes, after the Essex game, and I saw him, he looked like he saw a ghost. He was like,
That's crazy.
what? Because it's 4 years. He goes, what have you done in this, sorry, 3 years? What have you done in this 3 years where we wouldn't even let you play sometimes? And now you're the lead guard in this conference, right? So I told him, I said, all I do is work. I don't party. I don't go out. I don't drink. I don't smoke. I don't do anything to damage my body outside of eat fast food because I don't know any better, right? At that time. And it's like, all I do is work out. And so at the end of that year, I end up getting phone calls. I'm getting recruited now by these schools. And here's another lesson for kids that go the JUCO route. I went to there's this guy named Rick Ball. He used to run this Ball Stars camp. He used to invite about 300, 400 junior college kids to Hagerstown, Maryland. Back in the days, there's a name Steve Francis. He played at Allegheny in Maryland.
Stevie
Stevie
franchise.
Franchise. So the rumor was Steve Francis was going to be at this junior college showcase. And so the whole court was buzzing. There's probably like 150, you know, almost close to 200 college coaches there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
from everywhere, from Florida State to you name it. And so the way it worked out is you have a team, you're selected to be on a team, and all you teams play each other, running clock for whatever the time was. So a bunch of cats you don't know, a coach that you don't know. And my favorite coach, no offense to my junior college coach because I love him, my favorite coach of all time was the guy that I had for one weekend, Coach Maine. So we're all, me and the guys, we're sitting there, we're on court, whatever, 706, and we're like, yo, where's our coach? Our coach isn't there. All these other teams are practicing. So we're getting to know each other. And I'm finding out right away as we're shooting around and talking, I'm on an elite squad. Like we're one of the best, we're going to be one of the best teams here. This guy's going to FAMU, guy's going to University of Hartford. Like I can see that we're really good. We're going to be really good. There's only eight of us.
So you're on a team with scholarship hoopers.
Oh yeah. Like half my team, half our guys are scholarship guys. And the other two guys are high level D3 guys. And so our coach comes up, it's in the summer, he comes up in a Hawaiian shirt and a briefcase, white dude, right? Red hair, beard, like he does not look like a basketball guy at all. Comes up and he goes, oh, hey guys. And we're like, are you our coach? He's like, yeah. He's like, you guys know each other? He's like, yeah, we all talk. He goes, all right, I'll see you at the game. Walks out. And then he comes back right before the game. And he's like, what do you guys like to do? Like, we like to run. You sure? Yeah. Okay, go run and play. Share the ball. Don't be selfish. Just go play, have fun. We blew out every team by like 45 points. Like we smoked. There's a kid going to LSU. We beat his team by 50. We blew out every team. And my best game that I played, I probably had like 30 something, a little bit over 30. And Coach Bain looks at me and he calls me out at the end, like last 2 minutes of the game, because we're destroying this team. And he goes, son, can I ask you something? And I said, yeah, coach, what's up? He goes, did you graduate junior college? And I go, no, I just take 12 credits every semester because you need 12 credits to play. And he goes, after the game, I need you to talk to you real quick. And so the game goes, I slap hands, and like I'm like thinking to myself, like, coach has only told me to take 12 credits every semester because that's what you need to play. I need
Stay
24
eligible.
credits to stay eligible. And so so a bunch of coaches were going up to him and asking who I was.
Right.
And so the first thing they were asking, did he graduate junior college? And then now he didn't know. So he goes, son, he goes, you need 61 credits to be able to accept a Division I scholarship. He goes, you can't go to you can't play Division I basketball. He's like, you'd have to sit a year, get the credits that you need, and then come. And I was like, coach, I can't, because I'm thinking to myself, well, I can't sit
Right.
because
How am I going to pay for those
I
credits?
can't
And
pay, like, I can't
yeah,
sit. I have no money. There's nothing, I cannot sit a year because then who knows what's going to happen. So I can't, so I'm saying to myself, like, it's no possible way I can sit. That sitting is not an option. So I asked him, I said, what else I can do? He's like, well, you have a bunch of Division II schools that love you. He's like, you can go to NAIA school. And I said, what's NAIA? He goes, well, they're kind of independent. They play Division Is and Division II. And I said, coach, I said, I can't pay for school. I need a scholarship. He's like, you're going to get a scholarship. He goes, it just depends on where you
your
go.
your ability is going to get you a
He's like, you're going to get a
scholarship at this
scholarship.
point. Now it's
He's like,
about making it work.
get that out of your mind. You want to go
Right.
somewhere that's the right fit. And so I hug him, and he's just a great dude. He gives me his number. One of the guys on that team actually ends up going to his school that he was coaching at,
Okay.
who became one of my best friends. And I'm sitting there, and I get a phone call, and this guy is like, yeah, my name's Coach Holt. I'm from Minot State, North Dakota, and blah 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 blah. And he's talking. I'm not really paying attention. It's another terrible recruiting thing to do because I had 15 schools that recruited me, so it all started to sound the same.
It's a blur. It's
And
a
I'm
blur.
just like, what in the world is going on? Does this guy say North Dakota? And I go, coach, is it, and now I mean, it's late. Like it's got to be mid-August or so. It's like really late. And I haven't made a decision yet. I've never been recruited before in my life. I have no one helping me. I have no one saying, this is what you look for. I mean, I had a coach tell me they were 7 and 25. I looked them all up. They're 25 and 7. They're reversed. They're 7 and 25. Right.
Mm.
So like, I'm like, I have no idea what's going on. And so I said, coach, what's the school? How much is the school? He goes, no, everything's free. You get a full scholarship, take care of everything. And I was like, all right, I'll go. No idea. I said, I'll go. Never saw the gym. Didn't know what they're known for in terms of academically. Like, I'll go. So my mom gets home. I said, Mom, I'm going to North Dakota to play basketball. My mom's like, do you know where North Dakota is? I go, yeah, that's where the monument. And she says, no, dummy, that's the president. That's South Dakota. North Dakota is here. So she takes out a map. She goes, North Dakota's here. You are here. It's a 8-hour flight almost because they stop in Minneapolis and
Right.
then to
You
get to the
can't
small
get to
town,
North Dakota directly, pretty much
can't
anywhere.
get to
Yeah.
Minot. So I'm like, Mom, it's free. And she was just like, what? I said, college is free. You don't have to pay for anything. And so we have a moment, right? And I'm like, welling up, like, this woman doesn't have to pay for paying. She doesn't worry about paying for anything. And so I get to North Dakota, and I fly into North Dakota, and I get off, and I meet a couple of my teammates there in the weight room. First day, it's like 5 o'clock at night, and my coach goes up to me, and goes, "Oh, tomorrow we're gonna run about 3.5 miles." Right? So like second day, we're running, right? So again, for you guys that think it's all sweet because you go to the recruiting visit, it's like, oh, coach loves me. You're working out immediately, right? Like
Right.
especially they give you money. It's money or no money, it doesn't matter. You're working out immediately. So don't think there's a
Right.
grace period. There's no honeymoon. Honeymoon's over. Honeymoon was your official visit. And so he brings me over into our practice gym. I had no idea. I've never. I at Sussex County College, we played on like rubber cement. Like we can
The
sit like
field house
yeah,
floors.
yeah, we can sit like 50. So he brings me into our practice gym, and I'm looking, and I think it's the main place where we play. And there's seats that go up. I'm like, oh, this is. I said, Coach, this is a great gym. Blah blah blah. And I'm like, man, well, how many people does this sit here? He goes, we don't play here. This is our practice gym. Our gym's across the street. We play in the dome. And I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, okay, yeah, the dome. And so he walks me across the street to an 8,000 seat dome. Like the Timberwolves and the Bucks scrimmage there when I was there. Like, I mean, I was like, holy crap. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, yo, I was at Sussex County Community College last year or 2 years, and like now I'm in this dome playing basketball in front of 8,000 people. So I had a great. I met my wife at Minot State. She played on the girls team. I come back home, have a good career. I learned how to shoot at Minot State. I was a slasher.
Hmm.
And you talk about work ethic, and this is why I still can't believe my wife is with me. Uh, I shot with a hitch, a major hitch. So I would jump, and then as I'm coming down, I let the ball go. And
Hmm.
I really couldn't shoot past the foul line, right? And it's like I shot two free two I made two threes in junior college, my 2 years. One was a bank, right?
Did you call it?
So no, not at all. I was
Oh,
like
okay.
this. And so like
Doesn't necessarily make it better. I was just curious. I,
so so my first year, my first year in North Dakota, I broke my fifth metatarsal in my left foot. So I had to redshirt my first year. So I do all this stuff, all this work, break my fifth metatarsal, sit redshirt my first year. But when I got back, my wife would rebound for me. She's a phenomenal shooter. She'd rebound for me, and I'd say every time I hitch, tell me hitch. And I used to break into the gym. The gym would close at like 9 o'clock at night. I would break into the gym around like 10 o'clock, 10:30, and we'd stay until after midnight. And she'd just rebound for me. And every time I shot with a hitch, she'd say hitch, and to the point where I'd hear it in my sleep. And finally, at the end of my junior season, I got the hitch out. And it's like now my range went back like who knows, a gazillion feet. And so now I went from making two threes to like averaging like three threes a game, and like being in the like I'm the record books for like free throw 3 point percentage, right, for mine
mm,
up. So it's like, and it's all work. I mean I used to make 700 800 makes a day, like
this is
700
the
800
grind.
makes. This is the grind, and it's like for me, it wasn't when people say, "Man, Cornell, you do a lot of work, or you're working out, And I had friends that really good friends that would be like, "Hey, we're gonna go across the street to the club." I'm like, "Okay, cool. I'm gonna go shoot 500 makes, and then tomorrow in practice on Saturday, if you try to guard me, good luck. Like, good luck, because I'm destroying all of you." And sometimes they like not go to the club and come with me to the gym, and sometimes they would still go to the club. So
Right.
you just keep working, and it's like there comes a certain age where kids start to be heavily influenced by the people around them, and like if no one's working like you're working, it feels like such a lonely place. But I always tell kids like there's not like there's it's never crowded on the regular on the main road, right? The main road is always crowded. The road less traveled is never crowded. So on that
Right.
main road, you have all your friends, all people that want to hang out with you. It's all crowded. On the road less traveled, which means work ethic trenches, there's like two cars there
Right.
because it's hard, right? So when I got home, I started working out with NBA guys, like guys I saw used to see on TV, like Eric Murdoch and Jason Williams and Derek Coleman, and all these guys played in this gym in Somerville YMCA, and here I am from Minot, State, University, like, hey guys, right? And I'm playing with these guys. It took me 3 months to be able to get a clean shot off, going there, and then by this time I was good, and I'm loving it. I'm like, okay, this is a new introduction to basketball because as you get up in level, the court shrinks because the athleticism is better.
Everybody's bigger and longer and
Everybody's
faster.
bigger and
Right.
longer. So the court shrinks. So now that seven dribble combination has to be a one or two dribble combination. And there's a guy that I think he coaches at Pingree now. But Jason Murdoch, he was Eric Murdoch's cousin, played with Sham God, played at Providence, played overseas for a very long time. We used to play one on one, no dribble, one dribble, two dribble games. And he used to smack me because I didn't know how to get my shot off in one dribble or two dribbles. And it really helped me learn how to be more explosive off one or two and work my mid range game with my pull up. And I got a contract to play professional basketball in Lisbon, Portugal. And I'm like, okay, I'm 7 years removed from playing JV, sitting JV at Morris Hills High School. And I have a contract to play professional basketball. And then a week before I was supposed to go, I ruptured my Achilles. Right? So like,
I have a couple questions because this is
yeah,
an important because rupturing your Achilles is a really interesting place
yeah,
to talk about what comes next.
yeah,
But I want to ask two questions first. These could be like lightning round questions.
sure.
Do you have a degree from
Yep,
Montana State?
yep, in
What's
journalism.
your major in?
Journalism communications.
Did you have, let's just hypothetically say, flashback, 16-year-old Cornell Thomas?
Yeah,
Is that what 16-year-old Cornell Thomas visioned
definitely
happening?
not. Definitely not.
Okay. So you
Definitely
just
not.
let this journey take you wherever it takes you.
Wherever it was going to take me because I didn't know what that journey looked like. I had no idea.
Sure.
I had no model of, oh, you play high school, you play college after college. I had no model of that in front of me. I didn't
Okay.
know guys like so. For me at 16, it was just like I got to be better today, and then tomorrow, and then tomorrow. So I was just taking it day to day.
So now we're here.
Yeah.
You have just poured all of your heart and soul into this one thing.
Mm-hmm.
You rupture your Achilles, and this is at a time nobody's coming back from Achilles injuries at this time.
No.
So that is a, I'm not trying to say this, harshly, but that's a basketball death sentence.
Yep.
At that time of your
100%.
life. Is there a point in that grieving where you say to yourself, I've done something like this before. Like, this sucks, but I can figure something out because I have done this before. And if so, how does it happen and what does it look like?
Yeah. So the first initial shock of having a doctor tell you that this is a year injury and you're probably not going to be 100%. Like, that initial shock. At that time, I was living with my mom when I came back home. She's still working a bunch of jobs. And my reason for playing professional basketball was, for me, just give me the competition and I can give the money to her. I don't care about the money. Like, I've never cared about any of the money. I just want to compete. And so I immediately felt like, I failed her, right? Because she's still working. So that, I had to deal with that. I had to deal with, one, I failed my mom. Two, am I going to be able to get back to even close to where I was? Because at this point in time, my game feels great. And then three, I'm by myself because no one's in the house anymore. So when my mom leaves, I'm sitting here alone with my thoughts. And it can be a very dark place when you're sitting back and thinking about, oh, I put all this work in up to this point. Why would this happen to me? So you get into
I get it, man. Like, and this is to give you an idea, Cornell. This is the reason why I asked, because like, hand to God, when I got my first autoimmune diagnosis after getting COVID really badly, I ignored it and I kept working because I was like, we're going to pretend this isn't happening. And then it literally torpedoed me. And I'll never forget that feeling of being like, I just failed my wife. I just failed my family. The guilt that I'm feeling right now about all these people that have made these sacrifices around me and poured into me so that I could do this, I'm letting all of them down.
Yep.
So I completely get
Yep.
that.
You get into a place, and I always tell people when I talk about depression and in your mindset, etc., you get into this place where I always describe it as, it's like you're sitting in the bed, the lights are off, you know where the switch is, you know how to get up and turn the switch on, but it feels like your legs are like 7,000 pounds.
You have no idea how to get to the switch.
How do I get to the switch? How do I get to this switch? And for me, it happened when I was, I see my mom go to her job and I'm sitting there, I'm crying in my room, I'm pissed off, I'm going through all these emotions. And I just started thinking about how we grew up. I just started thinking about, coming home, the lights being off because we couldn't pay the bill, and my mom just handing out candles and flashlights, etc. Not having any hot water, my mom boiling cold water, putting it in the bathroom. So I'm like, my mom is a solution-oriented person. She's not about problems. Like, not like you don't recognize the problems, it's just she doesn't sit in the problems. So I'm like, if you were raised by this woman, okay, what is the solution for the problem that you have right now? There's nothing you can physically do in this hard cast in terms of your legs. You can't jog, you can't run, you can't bike, none of that stuff. You can't do it. So I called my best friend up, my buddy Kevin, who would work out with me at the gym, and I said, pick me up on Monday. This is on a Friday. And he sounded like I died because he's like a brother. So he hit my dream is like his. When you have close friends, I always tell athletes, when you have people that really care about you, you go through something, they go through it. And he goes, Cornell, what do you want me to pick? I said, just pick me up. I said, we're going to the gym. Because that was our routine. On Monday, we go to the gyms. And so he picked me up, and that Monday for an hour, I shot from a chair.
Okay.
And it did nothing for my basketball. It did everything for my sanity.
Mental. Right.
Everything. It allowed me to get out the house, do something I love, right? And I try to rebound for him, like just sit in a chair, try to like pass the ball back to him when he shot his free throws. But it got me in the gym. It got me in this environment that I love. And I did that for 5-6 months, and got my hard cast, and I can able to just balance myself and stand and shoot. And then finally I got the cast off after like 8 months, 9 months, whatever it is. But what I didn't tell myself when I got fully back is I knew that I wasn't who I was. I felt it. Like I lost a step. I wasn't as vertical as I was. Like I felt all that. But I was like, all I knew was Cornell the basketball player. Because I was never known for anything. So I was like, you can't take my identity from me now. People know me for hooping. So I'm going to keep that. And I'll never forget, I start running Sussex County College summer camps, the basketball camp. Because my old coach was the athletic director there. He goes, Cornell, the guy that used to run our camps is gone. Can you run camp? I'm like, yeah, how hard is camp? Camp should be like fine. And so I loved it because we had all these kids that would come in and we play games. And I'd be showing them like, yo, this is how you sham got a kid. So I'm showing all these
Yeah.
Sussex County kids like real wiggle moves and stuff. And a year goes by, and my coach comes up to me and goes, "Hey, the coach that was here is leaving," and it's like end of August. The guy he left early, and he got another job. He just took off and bounced. So there's no recruiting, really hardly any recruiting. And he asked me if I take the job, and I'm like, no. I was 24. I was like, I've never coached basketball before, and
Right. And I'm trying to play. This isn't
I'm
it
trying
for
to
me.
play.
Right.
Like this ain't the move. And I'll never forget. I was talking to my wife, and she called me, and I said, "You never believe what coach asked me to do." And she goes, "What?" I said, "This dude asked me to coach basketball, be the men's coach here." She goes, "I think you'd be a great coach." And I hung up on her. I was like, no one, like anybody that's not in my dream is you're against me. And she called my mom up, and my mom called me, and my mom said, "This is what you're gonna do." She goes, "Out of respect for all the things that coach did for you, you're at least gonna go on the interview." And Jared, I swear to you, I went to the interview and I just sat there like this, like I'm not coaching this team. And like 3 days
Wow.
later, I had an orange whistle around my neck and 15 guys calling me coach. It transitioned that fast. I went from I'm a basketball player. I left that meeting and something told me to coach these guys. And I started coaching these guys, and all these guys are me. Like literally my same exact situation. Single parent household or no parent household raised by the grandmothers from these different areas in New Jersey and Baltimore and New York. And their parents are dropping them off if they have parents and saying, hey, help my kid become a better student, help my son become a man, help him be responsible. I'll see you in 2 years.
So this is a really important thing for me. Our stories in terms of how we got into coaching could not be more opposite, except for one common thing. And that one common thing was we both had absolutely no idea we would ever be doing it. I found coaching by accident, and the only thing I knew was my favorite thing to do is teach people leadership skills, but I haven't found my favorite classroom. And then I got networked with Reggie Witherspoon, the head coach at University of Buffalo at that time on the men's side, and I got networked with him because of Jim Quitchoff, who was his assistant coach and his director of basketball operations. And Jim Quitch is a mentor of mine. He's the man. And I just saw the way they behaved every day, and I was like, this is where I teach leadership. And much like you, when you were like, I can't see myself doing this, what do? I took a regular job, and then I was like, no, we go back to coaching.
They're literally going through the same exact route that I went through once they hit Sussex County Community College.
Sure.
I was here for 2 years. Now I can tell you, you need 61 credits to get out of here, Jack. And I can also tell you, if you're not passing freshman seminar, which is the easiest course that we have, how are you going to sit in my office and tell me that you want to play for Jay Wright at Villanova?
Right.
Right? So like a lot of it for me was a reality check for kids because I'd have 6'2" power forwards that are saying I want to go to Villanova and they're averaging 5 points a game with me. And I'd be like, listen, I worked the Villanova camps in the summer. What they have coming is not you. Their guards are your size or taller, and they're McDonald's All-Americans. So let's be a little bit more realistic. Let's sit down and not chase the division, and let's see where your academics and your basketball skills, where we can place you. And I'd have these conversations, and I would work Villanova. I mean, I used to love working Villanova camps because watching all the guys now, like Kyle Neptune, who's the head coach of Villanova now, he was the video guy when I used to work camps.
Oh wow!
Like he was that's how far back we go. Like Coach Chambers, Coach Ergo, who's at Fordham, like Coach Chambers at Florida Gulf Coast, right? Like all these guys.
Jay Wright, by the way, has one of the biggest coaching trees in basketball
ever. Because he allows his guys to be leaders and he allows his guys to have a direct impact into the program. If you watch him coach, like Jay Wright, I this is how far back I go. I messaged Jay Wright on his BlackBerry when I was my first year coach at Sussex County College. I asked if I can go see a practice. And dude, I can't help him. I don't have guys. I have D3 guys. This guy said, hey, come up. Now I had $200 to my name, Jared, and I took that $200 to go to Villanova and watch a practice. And this is when they had Scotty Reynolds and Corey Fisher, and I watched a practice, and he goes, "Hey, if you're around tomorrow morning at 6, we're doing another workout. I can explain a little bit more what we do." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm around. I got a hotel." I did not have a hotel, and I waited. I found a cheap hotel to stay in that night, and I told my wife, I was like, "Look, I'm spending some of the money that we have because Jay Wright said I can come back." And I watched, and then that led to me working his camps and working with all these great coaches. I remember sitting in a at one of his clinics, and it's like me and him and Flip Saunders and all these great basketball minds, and it's like Cornell Thomas of Sussex County Community College, just sitting there like writing notes on every single thing that they talk about. So I never, when I got to coaching, my work ethic, I always tell kids transfers. So the work ethic I had for basketball transferred into coaching because again,
Right. These are
I'm
your
com-
soft skills.
yeah, I'm coming into a new place where I know how to play. I don't know how to coach. So I immerse myself in the coaching. Any DVD, any book you can think of, any clinic I can go to, I went to. And it took me a while to figure out the most important lesson that I learned in coaching at an early age is not everybody's you. And that was a big time lesson because I feel I was a horrible coach my first 3 or 4 years
Mhm.
because I couldn't believe that guys weren't in the gym shooting 1,000 makes every week or 2,000 makes. Like, why aren't you shooting 2,000 makes every week? You're telling me you want to get a scholarship, but you're not working out. Like, oh, what, you have a girlfriend that you hang out with all the time, but you can't be in the gym. Like, I'm getting more shots
Right.
up than you guys, right? So it's like you start doing this stuff, and it's like, oh, wait a second, they're not you, bro. Like not everybody's you. And I got blessed with an All American for 2 years, my first 2 years of junior college. The kid, he was a sixth man on like a state championship level team, and he came by me and averaged 25, 11, and 5, for
Wow.
2 years straight. But as junior college goes, it's 2 years, and he graduated.
Now it's
So
a new team.
when he graduated, and I ran it like I was way before Coach Carter. Like I would if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, if you're not culturally, you don't fit what we're trying to do, you don't go to class, you don't have the right attitude, I'll let you go. So my year without my All American, my first year, we lost every single game. I kicked off 7 guys. My assistant coach came to my office and said, "Cornell, we're not going to win a game if you kick these guys off." I said, "I don't care." I was like, "It's our culture is not going to be compromised."
Hmm.
So within that, and then 2 years later, we won. We broke the school record for wins, and it wasn't because I'm such a great coach. It's because we got culture kids in there
You got the right
that
guys.
got the right guys.
Yep.
So I learned so much about leadership, coaching basketball, and failing, right? Just failing over and over and over again, and coming home and saying, I could have handled that situation a lot better. And apologizing, which I never did my first 3 years of coaching basketball
Right.
because I was perfect, right? Like I didn't make any mistakes. If you guys lost, it's because of what you're doing. It couldn't be because of me. I'm great. And then I realized, like, no, you're wrong. You're the leader of this ship. You're making tons of mistakes. So you have to be able to apologize to your guys. I got a old school Nintendo 64 that I put in my office, and we used to play Mario Kart in my office because now the guy's like, oh, coach is a human being. He
Right.
plays Mario Kart. He's not some just dictator that's making us wake up at 5:30 in the morning and doing defensive slides up a hill like this, right? Like we're still doing that, but we can also go into his office and he's accessible and I can talk to him. So like my whole entire life changed, and I realized that I was created to help people and not to be, a professional basketball player. That was just part of the journey.
But everything, it's almost like you travel through life with this bag over your shoulder, and
Mm-hmm.
everything that's in the bag comes with you, even if what you're
Yep.
doing changes, which is, I
100%.
think, mission critical. So you and I
100%.
talked prior to this podcast, and I told you that your mission was to outline what the work in your story looked like. And I would say
Yes.
you have like S ranked that mission. You have knocked it out of the park. But before I let you go, I want to rapid fire. So now you are still that coach. You speak motivationally with people. You coach AAU ball. You have experience coaching both young boys and young girls. Anything that there is in a recruiting process to see, you have now seen. So I want to lightning round a couple things with you. Get your response because I think, especially with your lens, because your lens is so work oriented, I think your responses are going to be important. So, first thing, I met you at a spooky nook. So let's say hypothetically, you got a kid on their way to a live period at Spooky. They're about to really be in front of coaches for the first time. What do you want that kid to be thinking about in terms of, because there's like, I got to do this, this, and this to be noticed by a coach. What do you want them to be thinking about?
Focus on us. Focus on us. Don't focus on them. I've seen it a million times. Whenever you project outwardly, like to who's here, who's watching me, it's never going to end well. Focus on us. Focus on what you've been doing with the team this whole entire time and just go play hard. Now, if you don't play hard and I'm going to turn it on today, you're not going to get recruited anyway. So I always tell the kids, focus on us, because if you're doing what you're supposed to do, the coaches are going to see it.
That is, I would tattoo that on myself, but I have enough already. So, next one. A 16-year-old, because you could see this in somebody. 16-year-old comes into your office. Coach, I've decided I want to play college basketball. What is the first thing you say back to that kid?
Okay, why? Why do you want to play college basketball?
I love that so much.
Yeah, because I'm curious of what the intention is, right? If the intention is like, I want to show my friends that I can play basketball, that's not going to get you through the trench days, the days where you have to really fight. But if your intention is, man, I want to play college basketball, one, because I love the game, two, my parents can't afford to send me to school. I need this, coach. I met a kid, and I'll tell you about him off camera. I met a kid from Italy that plays at Morris Catholic High School, and he is a phenomenal. I mean, this kid's going to be a very special college point guard. And he said, Coach, back home, if I go back home, there's no opportunity for college for me.
Right.
That's why I'm here. You tell me that you're going to take a couple of days off, and this killer with that motivation is there. Like, you're a point guard, you're going to take days off, and this kid is somewhere lurking to play against you one day. So it's all intention. Like, why do you want to do it? And then after the why, we can figure out the how.
Okay. Last one. I was most certainly an ignorant 16-year-old. I was an ignorant 20-year-old. I was an ignorant 22-year-old. It really got better in grad school.
Same.
But I say to you, Coach, I hear what you're saying, but I think I can just be good. I don't think I need to really love this sport to succeed in it at the collegiate level. Your response is what?
You're right. You're right. You can go to a very small school where the coach doesn't have a lot of demands and probably doesn't win a lot, and you can probably be decent and play for that school, right? But if you want to play anywhere where a coach has demands and wants you to be a great teammate and wants you to work hard every single day, that attitude is not going to make you make that team. It's never going to happen.
This is, it's a good place to wrap because I want to discuss what you just said with you. I am consistently amazed, Cornell, by how many young people think that they can cheat the game or not have an invested relationship with the game and are also really resentful and really envious when other people who have a stronger connection to the game fly by them and get more minutes. I have to imagine, especially now that you are back in New Jersey and you are working with a lot of kids that come from decent family finances and go to these places where the family oftentimes is paying for college. I imagine that is something you see a lot.
Yeah. It's what you said, Jared. Again, you talk about tattooing things. I wish I could bottle up what you just said, because gratitude is a verb. Gratitude is something that you outwardly show. I coached at Blair Academy under Joe Montagna for 7 years, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever had in my life. And I would tell these guys before we had practice, do you understand where you are? You have a Hall of Fame coach. You have 16 freaking squash courts. I didn't even know what the hell squash was before I got here. It looks like the damn Harry Potter school. And you guys are worried about things that who really cares about, right? Like, these kids don't understand, even as little Jared and as big as your parents coming to your game. Do you understand the luxury it is that mommy and dad want to come, like they can physically come see you play?
And they can afford it. It is a no financial strain. Bingo. Right.
I got so fired up my headphones came out. I got so
I'm
fired
gonna
up.
find a way.
Yeah.
I saw it and I tried to stay no
Yeah.
smile, no laugh,
I wish
so
you would
that
have
I
though.
can screen grab it and hopefully capture the enthusiasm that I just saw.
I'm just so fired up. Like I don't understand. Like I could go, I travel a lot. You know, when I speak, I go all these different places. I
Right.
remember being in the Dominican Republic and we're in this place called Samana. And there's these kids that have these like kind of raggedy baseball uniforms on. And they had this like car tire tied with some rope around their waist. And they're running in this like concrete gravel baseball field.
Right.
But I can drive past 7 million basketball courts, 7 million baseball fields, and see
They're
no
empty.
one.
They're empty because
They're
it's not
empty.
organized for them and it's not done for them.
Exactly. It's empty. But yet, when you see the kid that's out there training, working on, now you want to talk crap about this kid because they're doing the work that you don't want to do. And this is the kind of world that it's been shaped in. That's why I love old school kids. I love kids that come out and work. There's a kid, and I'll just leave it with this. There's a kid that played for South Sudan this year, Mario Shayak. I recruited Mario to come to Blair. Played at Blair for 2 years. Then played at Virginia, then went to Iowa State. Mario, the reason I recruited him, Jarrett, he was one of the top players in Canada. Okay, great, that's cool. But I went to see his high school play. And his high school coach told us to come down and take a look at him because they knew he was bigger than where he was. And he had this little like Asian point guard, this little like 5'4" Asian point guard. And so coach was texting me, he goes, "Oh, what do you think?" I said, "Well," I said hi to Mario and his dad. Mario seemed a little nervous, which I liked, because that means he's not too big time to like not feel that, okay, a coach from America's here to watch me. I
Right.
said, "We're going into the fourth quarter. They're up by a lot. Mario's playing okay. He has 28, 8, and 8. But the best part about this kid is his backup point guard got in that never plays, and Mario is coaching the crap out of this kid, and they're up 20. I said, if we don't get this kid to Blair, I might not come back. I'm not sure. Like I don't care what we have to do. We need to get this kid to Blair because when he came to Blair from the very first day, Jared, he worked harder than anybody else. And he was our best guy for 2 years and worked harder than anybody. He was in the gym nonstop, went to University of Virginia. Tony Bennett and his guys did the same thing. Mario's a gym rat. Always went to Iowa State, same thing. He's a gym rat. No one's in the gym more than him. And this is a kid that is like, a pro. He got drafted 50, like second last pick in the NBA draft. Plays in China now. But like, this is a pro. And this kid is appreciative of anything that you give him all the time. Thanks, coach. I appreciate it. Thanks for waking up with me this morning, coach, and put me through drills. I appreciate it. And then you have kids that aren't a percentage of, not even a 2% of that kid, that they feel entitled to all the spoils, but they don't want to work at it.
It's almost like wink, wink, nudge, nudge. That lack of perspective is what holds a lot of athletes back mentally. And I struggle with young people about this. And, I don't want to overshare, but I'll basically leave it as my first 2 years of college coaching were a grad assistantship on top of a grad assistant. I couldn't even have the title of grad assistant because I was a grad assistant in judicial affairs at the University of Buffalo. So they called me an administrative intern. And I did anything I could in the spare time I had. Then I volunteered for 3 years. Then I took a gargantuan pay cut and, started getting into coaching full time. And like at no point in my mind was I like, I am entitled to the next thing because I've been here long enough and I've done this. I always kind of am like, what I've done is not enough yet for me to have earned the next thing. So I might as well figure out how to get better at what I'm doing. And I hope you would agree with this, but I think, please understand our messaging. We're not saying that you have to be from a single family household to be successful at basketball, or you have to have no money to be successful at basketball. What we are saying though is if you are influencing a young person, parent, grandparent, friend, family member, make sure that instead of harping on the immediate results of whatever's happening in their orbit, that you're having them take perspective of each and every moment so that they're never too big for the moment and the moment is never too big for them. Is that a fair
That's
ask?
more than fair. where I have two kids. They're 11 and 9, and they've played a total of 6 basketball games in their young lives. All we do is work, and I just like to people like, oh my gosh, they must work out. No, they do jujitsu, they do soccer, they do basketball, they do all the things. Because I'm not a psycho. I've seen crazy parents take the love out of a kid's heart for
Mm-hmm.
basketball and for other sports. So we train. We'll go out this summer. We train 3 days a week, 4 days a week sometimes. We train for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We make it fun, but we put the work in, right? Like they
Mm-hmm.
still ran up grass hills, but they enjoy it. They roll right back down them, right? So it's like it's up to the coaches and to the parents and to the grandparents to understand taking someone's passion away is one of the worst things you can do to an individual. And I've seen parents take it away from kids at 10 years old, 11 years old, 12 years old. I've seen parents tell me that their kid's no good and they're 11. I'm like, I started when I was 16. Imagine if I would have had a parent to tell me that just because I'm not good when I first start, I can't do anything with it. I wouldn't be in
Bingo.
front of you right now.
Bingo. And it's really, you know what? I really want to end there because what I've found, I'm kind of followed by a lot of parents and a lot of athletes. It takes both. You're
Mm,
only as strong as your support system could be. And to me, one of the most important things that we learned in this interview just now is that your support system modeled the way for you in terms of their work ethic. And when you were ready to be bailed out, when you weren't ready in your immature moments to take that perspective, your support system said to you, time to work harder.
yep.
The secret is there is no secret. Uh,
Yep.
I'm going to be blasting links and everything like that in the podcast description. But aside from that, where can people find you? Cornell,
Uh,
Mother Love, and Thomas. Where can
Mother
people
Loving
find you?
Thomas. They can find me at cornellthomas.com, crossroadsbasketball.com, or all across all social medias, just at Cornell Thomas. At Cornell Thomas 34 on Instagram, Cornell Thomas everywhere else. Shout me out, say what's up, and I'll say hi.
Absolutely. And he will say hi.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time, brother. Always a pleasure.
Appreciate you, brother.
That's going to do it for another episode of the Nail the Recruiting Process podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. I hope you got something out of today's podcast. If you'd like to learn more about anything related to Nail the Recruiting Process, the book, my work, maybe wanting to work with me one-on-one, anything under the sun, you're going to visit www.nailtherecruitingprocess.com. If you'd like to follow me on social media, you can follow me at Nail the Recruiting Process on Instagram or at Jared the Coach on Twitter and TikTok. Both of those handles are just one word, no characters, no spaces. If you'd like to ask something of me directly, if you'd like a question that maybe you want answered on a future podcast, or if you have an idea for something we should talk about in a future episode, please reach out to me via email. I would love to hear from you. My email address is recruitinggear@gmail.com. That's the word recruiting, then the word gear combined. recruitinggear@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and we hope to catch you next time.